My name is Devin Schilling, and this is for my Chemistry 2 lab. The lab that I was given was vapor pressure of water. What was my lab about? The topics that were being reinforced in this lab from Chemistry 1102 were enthalpy and Gibbs free energy. With a brief summary of the lab being, we filled up a 10 milliliter beaker, leaving around an inch at the top for air. Then we submerged the beaker in a 1,000 milliliter beaker full of DI water. Then we placed it on a hot plate with a spinning bar in the bottom. From there, we heated the beaker to an 80 degrees Celsius, turning the heat off and recording the volume of air bubble every 5 Celsius loss until it hit 50 degrees Celsius, with ice being added to decrease the temperature. Then the last step being, once the temperature fell below 50 degrees Celsius, you dump a bunch of ice until the temperature is 0 to 5 degrees Celsius. With the lab being for calculating the change in H vapor, change in S vapor, and change in G vapor, and calculating the boiling point. Along with typical lab procedure, we were also expected to make a graph of LNP water versus 1/T. What did I find difficult about this lab? Honestly, the lab itself wasn't difficult at all, with the only annoying parts being reading the beaker and setting it all up properly. But post-lab, I remember really struggling with the graph and the calculations for this lab, mainly because I waited so long before I did both the calculations and the graph wrong, which, with the help of the teacher, I was able to fix and got a good grade out of it. But thankfully, after this lab, I don't remember struggling with the graphs anymore. What could have helped overall, my success in this lab? The first and most important factor I could have changed to be more successful in this lab, and all the ones after and before, would have been completing this lab sooner and not waiting until the day before. Another useful change I could have made was emailing the teacher when I had problems instead of my lab partner. Even though both of my lab partners were extremely helpful, I still believe I would have been more successful if I just emailed the teacher more often. Another useful change I could have made on this lab and the ones earlier in the year is to fully read the instructions, slowly taking my time to completely understand them. For one big problem I had on this lab and the ones around this time is how often I was confused while doing the work. Did I watch the videos, or did I watch videos to help? I didn't find videos to be that helpful in this lab, but the only video I watched was the one that I linked. The way I got help in this lab is by talking to the other students in the course, which was very helpful, and I'm grateful to all of them. But I wasn't helped by the video right there. How do you feel about the videos provided? I don't believe videos were even provided for this lab, or at least when I looked it up, but I never watched any of the videos provided, which I definitely should have, and it may have really helped both my comprehension in this lab and the work after it. I rarely watched videos in general, mainly because I didn't really find it to be too helpful to me. But I found it to be much more helpful when I'm able to ask questions to an actual person and they can walk me through it. What one piece of advice would you give to the upcoming students? Well, I gave multiple, but I would highly recommend emailing the teacher anytime you're confused and need help. Because for at least me, there were many times I was confused and didn't know what to do, and I would have saved myself so much trouble and stress if I only talked to the teacher sooner. Another piece of advice I would give is to try and make sure you're off from work or other responsibilities on your lab day, so you're able to stay back and work on it and talk to your teacher if you have any problems. With another piece of advice being to make sure you're properly following lab instruction and listening to the teacher, because who likes having to redo steps or even the entire experiment? And lastly, just make sure to give yourself well-written instructions so that the lab isn't too confusing, which I feel like I did pretty well on that. Overall opinion on the online lab notebook. Now that this is my second course with the online notebook, I really like it, if only for the fact that I don't have to keep up with a physical copy. Along with, I don't have to write it all out. For typing feels and goes by a lot quicker than having to write out everything. Another big plus of the online notebook is it's much harder for your notebook to be damaged and destroyed. Along with, it's practically impossible to lose your notebook. The only problem I had with the online notebook compared to a physical one is you can only work on it if your internet's good. And that is the end of my PowerPoint.